Hello, and thank you for being here. Welcome to my channel. My name is Chrissy Hodges, advocate for OCD, in particular pure OCD, which is also the name of my memoir, The Invisible Side of Obsessive Compulsive Disorder. I'm a certified peer support specialist working with people worldwide to help support individuals as they're working toward recovery for OCD. I can help you find referrals for therapists if that's what you're looking for anywhere in the world. Also, NoCD and OCD is an app. Inside their app, you can connect to resources, other people that have OCD, and they also provide telehealth in many, many areas around the world. Check them out at treatmyocd.com. And if you're looking for services from me, go to chrissyhodges.com. Today, I wanted to talk about something that I think is really important. I've probably talked about this several times in a video, but not sure that I've done this specific to this topic. Why is it that we don't tell people about our intrusive thoughts? And then when we don't tell them about it, why do we feel awful about it and feel like that we should tell other people? So I'm going to talk about a couple different reasons why we don't, and then the guilt and sometimes the shame that comes along with not telling people and how it makes us feel, because I think this is really important. I think this goes along with confession, right? So it goes along with the idea that we feel like we need to confess to people what we're dealing with and the content of our intrusive thoughts. If you've seen many of my videos, I always say this: it is nobody's business what your intrusive thoughts are. Your story is your story to tell. And we'll get into this, but no one ever needs to know what your intrusive thoughts are. And it isn't doing you a disservice, and it's not doing them a disservice. This is a very emotional and personal illness. So I want to talk some about that tonight. So in my own lived experience, I did not tell anybody what was going on for 12 years. From the onset of symptoms at age 8, the real symptoms, I mean, I'd had OCD and intrusive thoughts and stuff like that before then, but the real onset was at age 8, the fear of vomiting. And along with that came religious scrupulosity. So I really believed I was being punished by having the intrusive thoughts because I had done something wrong. So a lot of my rituals were around religious stuff and prayer and confession, or like an internal confession to a higher power to try to ask for forgiveness, things like that. And I did not tell a soul. Why? Well, there are probably more reasons than just OCD for me in particular. So I can only speak for myself. I can't speak for anybody else. But, you know, I knew as an 8-year-old that keeping things to myself would probably be the better option than telling people in my life, whether that be invalidation or dismissive, being dismissed, or just not being believed or whatever. I knew that intuitively. But as my intrusive thoughts progressed later in life, when I started getting more taboo intrusive thoughts, you know, I had intrusive thoughts about demon possession, harming kids, incest, things like that, and then sexual orientation OCD, which was probably the bigger theme for me when I was 14. That's when that hit. I just did not want I didn't want to tell anyone. I was too embarrassed. I was too embarrassed that I was having these terrifying, horrible thoughts that I didn't want, that I felt like had nothing to do with me, but yet I couldn't stop them from happening, and I couldn't stop myself from needing to figure out why. So I chose not to tell anyone. I was scared saying them out loud would make them real. So if I could just keep them in, every single night I went to bed thinking if I might wake up in the morning and they will no longer be here and this nightmare will be over. I mean, I didn't even write things in a journal. I didn't want to put them down on paper because I never wanted to have to look back and remember that they had happened. So, you know, this is a source of anger for me, a source of frustration, that years and years and years of my life were sucked away because of this, whether that be because of OCD or whether or not, you know, I had an upbringing that putting me in a position to feel safe telling other people and then possibly getting help. So lots of anger there, which I've talked about before. You know, anger is a valid emotion to have when it comes to OCD. You know, the other thing is you're scared of being misunderstood. You're scared that if you say it out loud, people will believe that the intrusive thoughts are real, and they won't understand that they're intrusive and they're unwanted thoughts. You don't want them, but you're scared that people are going to see it or hear it and go, oh my gosh, what does that mean? Is that real? Are you that person? And typically, and I say this a lot to clients, is people will say things back that trigger us. And it isn't because they're cruel. It's just because people are ignorant of OCD and they are just hearing what they want to hear. So if you say to someone, if you're having sexual orientation OCD, right? And, you know, like my situation, so I identify as straight, but I was having intrusive thoughts about what my sexuality was. Am I gay? Am I bi? Or whatever. If I were to say something like that out loud to someone, they would go, well, are you gay? I mean, that's a valid question to ask someone who is saying, I'm having these thoughts. But for me, that was, oh my God, why would you ask me that? I'm telling you that I don't want the thoughts, and they're there anyway. And so it becomes then this mission to convince the person that you've told that that's not actually what it is. And it can even further the confusion or it can trigger you. So I always, when I work with people doing peer support, this is something that we work on, and sometimes can even role play of like, here are some of the things that might be said back to you. Now, when we get into the real taboo stuff, that's when you really have to be careful, because you tell somebody and they really just don't get it, or they ask you, well, do you think that you're attracted to kids? Or do you think that you could harm someone? Oh my God, that will send you into an absolute frenzy, because it's the last thing, A, that you would ever do and that you would ever want to do, but B, it's the last thing you want people to think about you. You've been vulnerable enough telling people how you feel, and then having to deal with that can just be an extra trigger on top of everything else. There are other multiple reasons why we keep this a secret, but just wanted to share that. Now let's go into what it feels like and what it can feel like, the shame and the guilt when you don't tell people about it, and how that can make you feel in relation to other people. I'm going to go down about 5 really quickly. Well, I don't want to make this video way too long, but the biggest one that I hear all over, and I can remember feeling like this to my core in the depths, would be the fact that I'm not telling people what these intrusive thoughts are means that people really don't know who I am. And they don't know the real Chrissy. It was terrifying to me. I already felt pretty disconnected. I had trouble connecting to people. I felt invalidated a lot growing up as a kid, growing up as an adolescent, teenager. And so the fact that I already felt this way and then had this big barrier between me and other people, which were these intrusive thoughts that weren't real, but they felt real, and they felt like this is some sort of part of me that I was in denial for. The fact that I wasn't telling anyone this made me so scared that this is part of me that no one will ever know, which means no one could ever connect to me, to the depths of who I am. They'll never really know me. And that was so sad and terrifying, because all I really longed for then, and still long for now, is deep connection. You know, I did not grow up with deep connection, and in fact didn't know how to have it. And so I've had to learn that as an adult, still struggle with it a lot, but I still really desire that. And so when I was experiencing intrusive thoughts at their height, when it was untreated and I was, severely in symptoms, man, this was the big one. I just felt so disconnected from everybody because no one knew the real me. Now, I'm just going to say this really quickly and then I'll move on. OCD, intrusive thoughts, are not the real you. There you go. There's some assurance for you. They're not the real you. Thoughts aren't the real us, right? Especially intrusive thoughts. They are a byproduct of OCD. They have nothing to do with who you are, your character, anything. They feel like they do because they feel so real and they won't stop. But this is not something about you that's hidden that you've got to confess in order for people to really believe who you are. It's not who you are. They're intrusive thoughts, right? The same way that I have thoughts about whatever outside right now. That has nothing to do with who I am. It's just thoughts. I know that sounds more simplistic than it is, but I really just want you to hear me. Just because you have intrusive thoughts doesn't mean that is the real you. It's going to fool you into believing that, but it's not the truth. Okay, next one. If I don't tell people my intrusive thoughts, that means I'm lying to them by default. No, it's not. Here's what I know. Here's what I know as a fact. I do not want to know my best friends, family, guys that, people I've been partners with. I do not want to know their every thought. No. Like, keep it to yourself. I mean, that would be exhausting. Knowing everybody's thoughts all the time, knowing everything that goes through someone's brain, because there's so many things that go through the brain. There's so many things that we could have anxiety about, that we have all this about. I don't want to know, right? And I don't feel closer to people when they are disclosing their anxiety, intrusive thoughts to me. No. In fact, I would, and this is what I do for myself when I'm feeling the need to disclose, I would question their intention. Why are you telling me this? What is that relieving for you but distressing me about? So when I am thinking about disclosing things, and I'm getting into the realm of confession, or I'm getting into the realm of this person needs to know this, I always evaluate the intention. What is the intention of me telling them? Is it going to benefit me, or is it going to benefit them? And usually if it's I need to do this now to make myself feel better, the intention is always, it's just going to make me feel better and probably going to create distress and confusion for the other person. You're not lying to someone by not telling them what is going on with your illness and your intrusive thoughts. Again, let me go back. Like, not everybody needs or wants to know, and this is your business. I have been in relationships for many years with people. And there are always instances where I do not tell intrusive thoughts because it is none of their fucking business. It's not. And I mean, if I wanted to tell them, it may just be because I need the support, or I'm in a place where I feel like it's important to tell someone because I'm struggling so bad. But even then, sometimes I won't get into the content because people just sometimes don't get it. So again, evaluating the intent. And by the way, not telling someone what your intrusive thoughts is not lying by default. There are some things in our lives we are allowed to just keep to ourselves. And that is not doing anything wrong. And then the last couple things. Okay, so if people knew what my thoughts were, this is a big one. If people knew what my thoughts were, if they knew I was having these thoughts around them or around their kids or around their family or around their animals or whatever, they would reject me. And then that then can twist over into, but don't they need to know the real me so they can have the choice? The choice of what? Because again, people don't understand this. They don't get it. This isn't your fault. OCD isn't your fault, and your themes certainly aren't your fault. Certainly. So, majority of people aren't even going to think twice about stuff like that. They're just not. They would probably hear those intrusive thoughts and be like, oh, that's bizarre. And that's weird, and they may give a care to it or whatever. But at the end of the day, people are mostly, preoccupied with themselves. But people can get it. They can understand that. But again, I want to go back to this. This is it. When we think to ourselves, I need to tell someone my intrusive thoughts so they have the choice whether or not they do or don't want to be with me. Again, I want to emphasize these thoughts aren't about you. They're not about your character. They don't have some inherent meaning that you're in denial and lying to everybody. This is an illness. The theme is a byproduct of the OCD, right? And so there is no reason for you to have to confess in order for someone to forgive you and then decide whether they want to be with you. Come on now. Like, you are worthy no matter what. And here's why. You didn't choose the thoughts. You didn't choose the theme. So you are essentially looking to give someone else power on something you didn't choose. That is not fair to you. Okay? It does not honor who you are as a person. It doesn't honor your worth and your dignity. You did not ask for OCD. You did not ask for this theme. You do not have to have permission from other people to find out that you're a good person. You are a good person, regardless. Okay? Hear what I'm saying to you. You're in your brain. You're like, yeah, but Chrissy, if you knew my thoughts, come on now. I know your thoughts. I've had your thoughts. This does not matter. We've got to stop equating what's going on in our brains as part of our character, as part of who we are, and whether or not we deserve certain things because of something that we cannot control. You didn't ask for this. Therefore, it is not your job to convince someone else or give someone the choice or the option that you're good enough for them because of something that you didn't cause, that's not your fault, and you didn't choose. With that, I want to end on this. OCD, because of all of these reasons, because of the fact that we don't want to disclose this stuff to other people, and that sometimes we struggle with how it's going to be received, or if we do or if we don't, can end up being a loss of connection for us. We feel alone. We feel even more isolated and secluded because of our intrusive thoughts. I want to end with this. You are connected to me. I am connected to you. You're connected to this community. And you know how I know that? Because you're here right now. So just the fact that you're watching this video means you are connected to a greater community that understands you more than anyone would understand another human being. And you understand them too. You are part of something bigger than just what's going on in your brain right now. And if you can take anything away tonight or today as you're watching this, I do want you to know that you belong in this community, and there's no reason to feel like you don't. There's no reason to feel like that you're different, that you would be rejected, that something's happened to you, or your thoughts are different, or your experience is different, enough to really understand you matter here. You matter to me. I matter to you, because we understand this experience when so many other people don't, and that just makes us connected. So if you feel like you're disconnected, trust me, you're not. And if you need one person to be connected to, you're looking at her. So thanks for being here. I hope that this helped. And wherever you are in your struggle, if you are looking for peer support, just know I'm here to help. Go to chrissyhodges.com for peer support or referral consultations, and I run groups as well. And if you're looking for telehealth, you can go to treatmyocd.com at NoCD. I'll see you next time. Bye.